one thing, I think a big misconception that a lot of people have, if the water looks clear,
Hmm.
it's clean.
Yeah,
There's a
exactly.
huge difference between clear water and clean water, right?
Mhm.
So clear water definitely needs to be tested in the laboratory.
Hmm.
Hey folks, that was Pooja Tendulkar, co-founder of Lemnion Green Solutions, a company providing nature-based solutions for wastewater treatment. She and her team are on a mission to tackle one of the most troubling issues of our nation, and that is the slow conversion of many beautiful rivers and ponds into nullas and dumping grounds. Today, we deep dive into this issue and understand how our lives are affected by it. I'm your host, Vedant Vyas, and this is Positive Planet, a podcast about thoughts and ideas on climate change. Subscribe and join me on this journey to a sustainable future.
So, hi Pooja, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hi Vedant, thank you. I am doing great. I think we're doing this first thing in the morning, so I'm pretty excited and looking forward to all the all the exciting conversations that we are going to be doing today.
Yep, I am also looking forward to it from a long time, in fact, from the time I connected with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with a very personal feeling about the whole water problem. I come from Nagpur, where a river has essentially converted into a nala. I come right now. I'm staying in a place called Gurgaon, which is closer to Delhi, where we all know what the current situation with Yamuna is, or every time that happens during the different season.
Right.
And with these two elements that I have seen on my own, but I think there's a much bigger problem that we are thinking of here. So, can you paint us a picture of how big is the problem of wastewater in India?
Okay. I think even if I don't help people picturize, they can see it on their own, right, every day.
Yeah.
Anybody who is either staying in a city or even in an urban, any kind of urban setup, whenever they step out of their house, the first thing, most of the places that we see, even apart from the wastewater, is a lot of pollution in different ways. So we see a lot of solid waste, we see a lot of construction debris which is being dumped here and there, which is like a very common thing that we see. I am particularly talking about this because as a common person, we get to see these things often.
Mm.
And then a lot of times, wastewater is something that you don't see, but you smell it. If
Mm.
you are very attentive and if you are that observant or aware, you smell it. So there are times when you are standing on a traffic signal, a nala is flowing right underneath the bridge, and you can smell it. There are times, a lot of times, when we don't we kind of ignore it, but we do see it. So these are common things that we get to see. And I think a lot of times when we look at such things, we also have realized in most of the cities that I travel, because we're doing projects in multiple cities. So what we also see is most of the rivers actually don't even look like rivers. They look like nalas only. So I think these are the problems that we see. And there are a lot of times which have also seen ki log nahi dekhte hain. They don't even see. So, a recent site visit that we did, there was a driver with us who took us to multiple places. So, we were looking for nalas, which are actually entering into a bigger river.
Mm.
And after the day got over, we were having dinner together. And I asked him, Bhaiya, आपने क्या देखा? कुछ नहीं. I was looking at my cell phone. And then we told him, what were we doing there the whole day? And only then he realized, oh, this is something that we're doing. So, next day onwards, he started observing. So I think there's another thing, that the problem doesn't look like a problem because we're not looking at it. So I think, I'm not sure what is the scale of the problem, but I think अगर उतना awareness हो तो सब लोगों को पता चलेगा कि क्या scale है problem की. So that's where I think I would want to start this conversation with, that we should start looking at the things that are there around us. Especially, there is this difference that we are able to make. So especially people who stay in Pune always say, Pune आधीसारखं वाटत नाही, is what we say in Marathi. That the Pune city doesn't feel like Pune anymore. It has changed so much. And I think that is the same case in most of the cities that we stay in India, right? So I think I would want people to think, why doesn't it feel like that anymore? Because you can't take a dip in that river where your grandpa used to take, or you can't walk on the streets because the traffic has increased. There are multiple things. So I think वो observation अगर हमारे पास आ जाए तो हम खुद ही उस प्रॉब्लम के स्केल को समझ पाएंगे is what I would like to say.
Nicely put there. And obviously, once you start ignoring this problem, you don't actually realize the effects that are happening on you,
Absolutely.
right? And given that you have traveled all around the country, can you also then let me know that unknowingly itself, how are people being affected by the water bodies around them that they are not even observing right now, health wise or maybe livelihood wise, anything?
Yeah. So just because we don't understand the depth of the problem, the issue is हमें ऐसा लगता है कि हमारी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं है बट आई ऑल्सो फील इट हैज टू बी आवर ओन रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी वाई बिकॉज इट इज डायरेक्टली इनडायरेक्टली अफेक्टिंग अस हेल्थ को अगर थोड़ा साइड में छोड़ते हैं एंड इफ यू हैव टू लुक एट बेसिक थिंग्स aesthetically how it affects us. So a lot of times when you look at a polluted water body, let's imagine, a lot of people go to the mountains. They say that the mountains are calling us. Why do you think they're going there? Because they're loving the pristine nature around them. Imagine if you get similar things in your cities. You have a park which is developed in a way that the water is pristine, looks clear, not only clear, but then if you have to look at the scientific thing of it, it doesn't have pathogens, it is not polluted and things like that. Why would anybody not want to go there? Right? Why do you have to take that train of light and go all the way to such a place which is far off from you? Why? So that's one thing. So I think when we have to look at these particular issues, the best part is for us to reflect what is going wrong. If again going back to the health part, a lot of times just because we consider this is not our own responsibility, a lot of things are coming to us. For example, if a polluted water body is flowing right next to my house, I don't think it is an NGO's or a government's or somebody else's, some experts' responsibility to take care of it. But for you to understand that it can actually bringing a lot of diseases to you, because the sewage from different parts of the city or different parts of the villages is actually passing from your own place. एक चीज ये है कि उस पे मच्छर आते हैं, so mosquitoes is a major problem. Then as a kid we've learned this diagram, that मच्छर उस पे बैठेंगे, मक्खी उस पे बैठेगी, फिर खाने पे बैठेगी and all of that. That's real. That's big time real. Okay, it is not something that we learned in our science textbooks, but it will actually come to you. So I think we have to be aware about that. उसके बाद वाला situation होता है, it doesn't even stop on the surfaces where these vectors or मच्छर और ये सारी चीजें, but there is also a possibility that it will percolate in your groundwater, right? कि अगर आपके पास में, if you have a bore well, if you have a tube well, if you have a कुआं जिसे हम लोग well बोलते हैं, so if you have any groundwater source जहां से आप लोग आपका पानी लेते हो, and if your body comes in contact with it, you don't have to drink it. There are chances that you might get severe health infections, not immediately tomorrow, but after a couple of years, because you are in touch with a polluted water body day in day out. Again, these are all assumptions. This is something that research tells us. This is something that we've also seen when we do baseline surveys, when we are rejuvenating a polluted water body. But this is something that happens to you. So I think we as citizens, we as individuals, or we as a community, we have to be aware of what is happening around us and how is that affecting us. So I think that's extremely important. And then we can definitely think about the transformation or the change that we are planning to have or we would want to happen.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of follow-ups here, but I'll start with the one. So, unusual thing that I know of every urban wastewater. So, primarily, if you just type out wastewater or water pollution in India or even in the world, the couple of main reasons that come in are the rapid urbanization and the industrialization and all those things that come into picture, solid waste and all that.
Right.
Now, we do have treatment plants and all these things into the picture. So, are these enough? Like, let me assume that everything is working in order, where the water that goes out of my house is being treated somewhere, and then it flows into the water body. Is that safe enough, or now we need more measures given the rapid increase in people and industries and different chemicals that we are using?
Okay, so fair enough. I think in an ideal situation, everything would be amazing, just like a fairy tale, right?
Yeah.
But it is never like that. I also believe that there are n number of technologies in the market. Everybody is doing absolutely amazing. They're coming up. I mean, there are new startups which are coming up every year, and they are also getting awarded. They're also getting grants to do more work. So I think technology is not an issue, Vedant. The system is not an issue. The issue is human behavior, according to me. And this is something that we've seen in the past 10 years of my work. Is if we don't change that habit, kuch nahi hoga. Let's imagine we have an amazing water treatment system plant. There's a township, and in the township we have an amazing wastewater treatment system plant. What if one day somebody decides to dump a huge truckload, or maybe tractor load of waste in the setup somewhere? कुछ गड़बड़ होगा ना. System तो सही है, technology सही है.
Yeah.
What went wrong is the behavior, that somebody decided to put something there. Okay. So these are the challenges that we see in most of the places. कि technology काफी अच्छी होती है, चीजें काफी अच्छी होती है, but one mistake of that behavior, something that you throw there, or you do a particular thing to that is an issue most of the times. Another thing also, I think, is the strategy or the way of looking at it. So one thing that a lot of times that has been followed in majority of the cases is a downstream approach or a centralized approach. जिसे कहते हैं, for example, कि आपका घर एक जगह है, आपका पानी, you're getting all that water somewhere on the outskirts of that particular city or the village, or somewhere close to the river. In that whole process, what you're trying to do is you're transporting the water from place A to place B. So that is one that you're doing. So it is either energy driven or construction driven. So there's some money that you have to put in there. So that's one. Second thing is, then you need another place of land with such huge volumes of water to treat it there, right? So these are two things, we are unknowingly increasing a lot of money. So other way of also looking at it, I don't think, or I don't know if this is an amazing or an ideal way of doing it, but it can also be looking at a decentralized approach or a cluster based approach. So let's assume, instead of doing that, what if we make clusters of houses, and जहाँ पे पानी की शुरुआत हो रही है, where the wastewater source is actually there, if we try to address it right there, you have to, you will save a lot of cost on the transport from place A to place B. You'll treat it right there. The best part is you will also be able to reuse it right there. So the best part again would be that you will unknowingly reduce your fresh water requirements. क्योंकि आप recycled water use कर रहे हो, तो आपको fresh water का requirement कम हो गया, क्योंकि आप वहीं का पानी वहीं treat करके उसी जगह इस्तेमाल कर रहे हो. So I think approach, strategy, and human behavior are three important things that we need to relook at, and we have to constantly redo that. Yeah. And I think it also changes with time. ये नहीं होता कि you have a technology and now you will use it for the next 50 years. Depending on the situations that we have, the challenges that we have, it is extremely important. And the second most important thing, I think, is the biogeographic zone. For example, you can make replicable models, but to some extent. Let's say we have to look at Maharashtra per se. So every side of Maharashtra is very different. The Konkan region is different. The Ghat regions are different. If you look at Marathwada, they are going to be very different. So, when you look at those regions, एक state में इतनी चीजें हैं, then let's assume कि पूरे इंडिया का अगर हम लोग बायोजोग्राफिक जोन्स देखें, बायोजोग्राफिक जोन एक्चुअली ये होता है कि वहां का क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशन क्या है. तो अगर मोटा मोटा बताएं, तो a system in Ladakh would be very different from what it is in Mumbai, and the same, it would be very different, let's say, somewhere in Vishakhapatnam, and again somewhere maybe in Madurai. Why? Because the human behavior is different. The people who are staying there are culturally very different, and the weather conditions are different. And that's why they have to be designed in that way. So you can't have one single baksa who can go everywhere. No, you have to see whether it fits there as a solution, depending on the challenges that you have. So I think the strategy has to be well thought. And that's how I think we'll be able to reach that ideal situation that we are looking at.
You also talked about human behavior, and so one is a very larger behavior, when whoever is setting up the plants and all that is being considered here. But let me bring it down to a very singular or smaller level. There are some things that I am doing wrong 100%, which is contributing to the water pollution near to my water body, maybe unknowingly, obviously.
Hmm.
What are such things that you can think of, maybe two or three things in daily life that we can generally improve without actually much efforts to our life? We always say that, being environmentally conscious
Hmm.
does not necessarily have to be an extreme task. It's very small changes that can lead to a large ripple effects. So
Right.
something like that.
I would want to keep the water part away for this
Okay.
answer
Hmm.
because I believe, Vedant, in environment or in nature, you
Hmm.
can't take one thing out, treat it separately, or provide solution separately and put it back in the nature. You can't do
Hmm.
that. It comes in a cycle or in a chain or as a web.
Hmm.
So एक चीज आप हटाओगे ना, you will unknowingly affect a lot of things.
A lot of things.
आपको पता भी नहीं चलेगा because आपका expertise वहां पे होगा ही नहीं. Your expertise will be in something else.
Hmm.
So holistic approach according to me is extremely important. कि आप वो सारी चीजें देखते हो और फिर डिसाइड करते हो किस तरीके का सोल्यूशन देना है. That's one. How do you identify such things? A couple of things. I think I started off as working in the solid waste sector also. I mean, I worked in the solid waste sector also for a couple of years, and I realized that that is also a connecting link between water. You know, let's assume we have this. A lot of places we also see that there's this usual practice that they will have a lot of things filled into a polythene bag,
Hmm.
a plastic bag, and
Hmm.
they on their way to the office, on their way to some kitty party, on their way to
Hmm.
something, they will drop it from the bridge into a flowing water body. So that again, you don't realize कि वो कहाँ से कहाँ तक का journey
Yeah.
होता है उसका.
Hmm.
And that is one of the reasons,
Hmm.
because it's not that one single person doing it. There are hundreds, thousands, and lakhs of people doing it. And that is also breaking the entire system setup. Because
Hmm.
if you are trying to rejuvenate a water body, what you want to do is you want to improve the water quality. You want to make it a point that more birds would come here. We'll do more plantations, so floods come ho, erosion come ho, पानी का quality सही हो जाए, दिखने में अच्छा दिखे. There are multiple things that we look at.
Hmm.
But imagine bags of kachra coming to your
Yeah,
water
yeah.
body despite of you doing everything. So
Hmm.
that becomes the culprit there. And then there are multiple other things, but this is something that I would primarily want to, highlight that
Hmm.
if one single person decide not to throw their waste in that water body, they are making a huge difference. And then comes other part is घर से चीजों का शुरुआत करना. So like segregation and things like that, but I don't
Hmm.
want to get into solid waste. I'll go to water now as individuals.
Hmm.
So I think another issue, Vedant, also is that we are not looking at our water consumption. I
Hmm.
understand that we have a certain privilege that we have water all throughout the year, like clean water access all throughout the year.
Hmm.
I think we're extremely privileged and we should be,
Definitely.
grateful for that. कि आप, like right now, we are able to drink something, and which is like पानी हम पी पा रहे हैं
Hmm.
without thinking कि इसमें कुछ contamination होगा. I think this is a privilege. And same thing goes for, bathing and other activities where we
Mhm.
use water, where we have clean access to water. And let's assume that if we use the water less, the wastewater generation would also be less. So ultimately, the infrastructure that would be required to treat that wastewater would also be less. So space कम लगेगी, पैसे कम लगेंगे, operations कम लगेंगे. So why not we look at our own water consumption? So this is something that we've been telling a lot of people. I as an individual try to practice it at times, but then there are days where you feel, nahi, today I need to have a long shower. Do that. I'm not saying कि आपको हर रोज एक बाल्टी में पानी में नहाना है. I'm never saying that. You also need to have certain privileges. That's absolutely okay. But we also have to be mindful of what we are doing every day. So I think two things. Looking at solid waste when you're putting it into that water body, I think you have to be mindful. And another thing, when you're using water on a daily basis, washing your clothes, washing your utensils, always think that इसमें कुछ कम हो सकता है. So I think these two questions would definitely, help you out in the long run. And आपको लगता है कि आप कितना ही कर लोगे. And there are also fixtures. Another thing that, I've realized because I did an internship in green buildings when I was in college, only to understand what is going wrong and, where are we going wrong.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
only to understand that. So there are some fixtures, Vedant, that come in the market. They're extremely affordable, where you put that single aerator in your tap, and your flow would be reduced. So let's
Yeah.
say अगर 12 liter flow आ रहा है 1 minute में, it would be reduced to let's say 3 to 4 liters or something. But the pressure, I mean the experience of washing your hands is still going to be the same, or maybe it might be even better.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. And then looking at the fixtures again, I think I don't know कितने लोगों को पता है, when you go to a washroom there are these two flushes that you see. There's a bigger flush and then there's a smaller flush. एक बटन होता है ऊपर बहुत बार.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know when to use it. So I think when you need a smaller flush, always go with that small button. When you need a bigger flush after a long time use of the washroom, then you use the bigger flush. So you end up using less amount of water. So I mean, I
Okay.
definitely want to comment on this because a lot of people don't really know about it, and it is
I
available in
didn't.
most of the spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And this
so
is the revelation actually. I honestly didn't know that these are two separate buttons. I always thought that okay, one of them doesn't work. You just press either of them.
नहीं.
Thanks for telling that.
Yeah, so I think yeah, ये छोटी छोटी चीजें तो कर ही सकते हैं. They are free.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the best part is you can brag about it.
Yeah.
So I think bragging, I think, is my most favorite part. And you should definitely brag about the activities that you are trying to do to make the environment better. तो वो तो होना ही चाहिए.
Okay. We mentioned healthy water a lot of times in our conversation. Okay, this is what healthy water is.
Hmm.
How do I know the water coming from my tap is actually healthy? It looks healthy. It definitely looks healthy. But anything you think want to recommend that this may be not healthy?
Okay. So one thing, I think a big misconception that a lot of people have, if the water looks clear, it's clean.
Yeah,
There's
exactly.
a huge difference between clear water and clean water, right? So clear water definitely needs to be tested in the laboratory. Again, depends on what are you using it for. If you're not going to be in touch with that water body directly, मतलब आप उससे नहा नहीं रहे हो, आप उससे ना you're not rinsing your mouth using it or brushing your teeth using it, then it's okay. If you're using it for, let's say, cleaning your washrooms or cleaning your public spaces or your cars or other things, then it's fine if it is not in human touch. But if you're planning to use it on your body or drink it, then the most important part, which is a very scientific thing, is the pathogens that are there in it or the microbial contaminations that are there in it. Because if you remember, as a kid, we always needed a microscope to look at these organisms.
Yeah.
Right? So वो तो होंगे ही. Obviously, there are going to be good organisms, bad organisms, both. But pathogens particularly actually help you spread diseases. And they're not visible. I'll also tell you, a lot of times, let's assume that the water looks very clear. There might be a small stream coming from some place where a lady or some community guys would be either washing their vehicles or their clothes.
Yeah.
And that वो छोटा सा चीज है ना, वो पानी में आता रहता है, which you're not able to see, but that is actually the reason of the contamination. So ऐसी बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं which are happening on the upstream and you are on the downstream and you don't know what is happening there. So the best part would be, if you're planning to drink it, make it a point that you get it tested. So that's a very basic thing. And you can actually go to any local laboratory which will help you test water. And then आप उनको वो sample दे दो और बोलो कि this is something that I'm planning to do it with that water. What should I get tested? They'll help you with it. So you don't even need somebody else to tell you that. They are, good enough experts to tell you कि क्या करना है, क्या नहीं करना है.
Okay. Shifting our focus to Lemnion's work, with respect to, I really want to know what all, like you worked on, a lot of things are available on website. But let's start across geographies that you have worked. Any story from ground zero to help our viewers understand what are the challenges that exist when we actually start to manage wastewater in the scale that you guys are doing. And talking about challenges as to, let's say, let's consider any one of your projects that you would like to share upon. Like the solution, like you said, for some, layman, it will sound like, okay, there's a biological solution. We have sorted water pollution. But that's not the case, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere on the ground, there are much bigger challenges that are probably coming into the picture. Can you share a little bit about that?
Amazing. Okay. So, Vedant, there are two things that we deal with at Lemnion. One is we make water treatment systems that can be made for any infrastructure. It can be made for educational institutes like schools and colleges. It can be made for, let's say, resorts and farmhouses, even for townships and bungalows. So that is one that we do, where we treat water, and about 80% of the water that we treat, it can be reused. Okay, let's say 1000 liters of water, agar wastewater, if it is coming every day, we are able to, reuse about 700 to 800 liters of it, right? So that's one that we do. If you're talking about communities majorly, I would like to focus on the other service that we work on, which is rejuvenation of polluted water bodies. So in this, we focus on ponds, lakes, but we primarily focus on feeder streams, on nalas. In Marathi, we call it as odha. In English, we call it as feeder streams. So these are basically the polluting agents for larger water bodies. So these
Okay.
multiple nalas will actually, bring in all the sewage from different parts of the city or the village, and it will take it to the larger water body. And that is how it is further polluting that larger water body. So here, the challenges a lot of times that we face is, something that we also spoke in the initial answers is people don't understand that there is a problem. उनको लगता ही नहीं है कि ये प्रॉब्लम है. उनको लगता है कि यार इतने सालों से अगर चल रहा है तो सही तो होगा ही ना. So that's one. So I think when we reach there, we try to ask them questions in a way that we understand, okay, these are the challenges. Because बने बनाए challenges लेके अगर जाएंगे उस पे solutions देंगे, then it never helps. We need to be in the shoes of the beneficiaries. When we finish the rejuvenation, who are going to benefit from it? Directly, indirectly. And for them, the solutions have to be designed. So that's how we talk to them. And then when we start talking to them, for example, a simplest question would be, when was the last time you took a dip into this water body? Then we'll find a random azoba or a grandfather or a senior person in the village who would talk about, yeah, I did when I was a kid. So that was about, let's say, 50 or 60 years ago, or even 80 years ago. And then we try to ask them how the transformation actually happened. From that day when you were able to take a dip to today when, you can't even sit right next to it. So that is how the conversations actually began. A lot of times, these conversations काफी next level पे चले जाते हैं. There are a lot of, most of the times we receive very few supporters. Very few.
Okay.
Right? So a lot of times they would be like, okay, these guys are wasting their time. There are, hundreds of people who come here. They've tried doing something for it. Nothing changed. So, that is the situation, which is a very common thing that we get to hear. But the most interesting part is we do it one day at a time. So when we design a project, it is always designed in a way where a lot of community people, or let's say we call it as local stakeholders, are involved in every stage. So they are involved in the baseline where we do multiple surveys. We try to understand what the challenges are. So we do a lot of, public participation or public questionnaire kind of a thing where we understand their perspectives, where we understand their challenges. So this is something that we try to understand. They also come in the design and the planning picture. And then these are different stakeholders. एक ही बंदा सब जगह नहीं होता है. So depending on their age, depending on their occupation, depending on where they are staying in that village or that city, we decide whom to talk to. So काफी अच्छा सा stakeholder mapping बोलते हैं इसे, कि we decide कि when to ask which questions and to whom particularly. So that's how they get involved in this whole process. And then addressing the challenge becomes easy.
Okay.
But most of the times, until they see something, they won't believe us.
Okay.
So they will give you all the information that you want. Sometimes they will give you, they will not give you the right set of information also, because they think, okay, there's something that is happening, we'll just give them and get rid of them. So this also happens initially, but later when they see the transformation, when they see, let's say the first cleanup drive has happened and, the solid waste has reduced, some plantations are coming up, some structures are coming up, they are getting in touch with more people where, there are people, let's say, for example, we worked on a project where Nana Patekar's foundation gave us the excavating machineries from his organization. So people were happy that, such popular people are helping us in our village. Right? So when you look at such things, so let's say a politician, for example, is actually coming up on the field every day to see the change that is happening. So, when you look at such things, that these senior people are actually coming here and helping us with whole process, then they slowly start believing in you. Then they see that the plants are growing, the butterflies are coming, then the water is getting better. Then, but this happens over a period of time, 4 mahina, 5 mahina, 6 mahina. Then they start believing in you. They come back to you and say, okay, this information that we gave you was not right. you please consider this as a new information, and then depending on this, now you do a couple of things. Or apart from this, we have these more challenges that we probably did not tell you, and they will tell you that we kind of did not believe in you, but now I think you should also address these challenges. So that's how you gain the trust of the people, and then they try to address the challenges that are there on the site. So it's fun to work with them. And then you get blessed with some good food. They'll call you home for dinner, and they'll feed you well, they'll take care of you and all of that. So yeah, it actually happens through the community engagement, and I think it's teamwork. So yeah, that's how we try to address the challenges. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, of course. You mentioned, I want to focus a bit on the positive story also. You said that there are changes that happen. What have you seen? What was, maybe take any example from your projects. There are a number of them. I can't remember all of them, but earlier there used to be that, the black color water covered, no light is penetrating inside, and probably different weeds are growing up, and how biodiversity came in. Can you tell a little bit about any of your project like that?
Right. I think there are a couple of projects which are my favorites. But one project which we did right before COVID was in Pune. And
Okay.
there is a very popular place in Pune called Sarasbag. So whoever comes to Pune has to go there.
Yeah.
Like, it's a beautiful place. It's a
Yeah.
park. And right in the middle of the park is a small water body, which is a pond. And right in the middle of the pond is a temple. So it's a beauty in itself. And this is a very old place. So I don't come from Pune. I was not born in Pune. But yeah, now my karma bhumi, as we can call it, is Pune. And Pune is an amazing place to be in. And you get different sets of people here, because there are people from different parts of India who have come here to work. So I think that is a project that I would want to talk about. Why particularly? Because it was a PPP model. It was a public-private partnership model, where the whole work was done using volunteer participation. It was not a commercial project. It was a completely volunteer-based model. So I remember when we how the story started was, we saw an article in the newspaper. Somebody quoted that this is the situation of the pond, and considering this as a very old pond from the Peshwas, what historically, what are we doing to it? Something like that. So that triggered me and Prasanna. We decided to take things ahead, speak to the bureaucrats, and they were like, we do not have allocated funds for this, but you guys can go ahead with it. You have an amazing idea to transform it. So he gave us the permission to work on it. Then we quickly realized, let's do more collaboration. So we got in touch with Rotary clubs, Rotaract clubs, and other people, and they were pretty excited, because that was the first time you were getting a permission to get inside the water body, which was a dream of most of the Punekars. We have to go inside that water body because it's fun. So yeah, so when we went to the water body, when they saw it, nobody wanted to get into it. Why? Because the water quality was not great. We see water hyacinth in most of the water bodies floating on top of rivers and lakes. We had another such invasive plant. It's called water lettuce, or we call it as jal kumbhi also in Marathi. So that was floating on top of it. And the reason was that the water was polluted, and that was the major source of food for the plant. And that was the reason it was growing more. And it was filthy. It had a lot of plastic bottles in it. Every visitor who came to the park actually, fed the fish and everything. So it was in a terrible state. But the amazing part was, we got amazing support from Rotary clubs and Rotaract clubs. They helped. They funded us for a couple of things. Pune Municipal Corporation helped with the material that we needed. So even if they did not provide the money, but they provided us with material. So I think that was a good enough support that we got from them. The positive part, I would say, Vedant, is we decided that we'll do this every Sunday morning for 2 hours, or Saturday morning for 2 hours, someday on the weekend, I remember. And we got like a big group on the first day itself. They were very excited. And there was a range of people, as volunteers who came in, like a 7-year-old kid to a 70-year-old person. We had a huge range, and everybody wanted to work. And we did not know that this is a range that we would get through social media. So the best part was, on a Saturday morning, where everybody is, exercising in the park, there are these people who are holding, putting on gloves, putting on gumboots. Few of them got into water because we did not want to scare the turtles and the fish that are there. So some people, we gave them jobs outside of water. Some got jobs inside of the water. And that's how the first Saturday for that Sarasbag pond rejuvenation actually began. This happened for 2-3 weeks straight, like every Saturday morning. And some things would happen during the weekdays through commercial machines and things like that, labors. Third week, the volunteer numbers got reduced.
Okay.
Fourth week, they reduced even more. And we had a WhatsApp group. So we were like, what happened? So a lot of people did not, respond on the group, but they responded to us in person saying, this is not going to happen. I think we're wasting our time. We won't come. We were absolutely okay with it. We started, putting on more posts and things like that. And then after 6th or 7th week, we got that first volunteer who came on first day and did not turn up for the next few weeks, saying that I saw that before and after picture that you posted after 5 weeks, and I think there is hope. I am getting into water today again. And there were more such volunteers that we saw all throughout the process. The best part was we could tell them how is cleaning different than rejuvenation. If we are doing this, what change are we bringing in? We are creating habitats for birds. वहाँ पे ना water hens थे. I think after 4 months, we could actually, we saw that the water hen actually laid eggs. And 2-3 months after that, there were these tiny chicks which were moving around in the water body. So that was a fun part to see. Initially, just because there were these water lettuce going on top of the water, sunlight was not penetrating, and there was solid waste around because everything was floating. Because we took it out, we did some structures where water could be treated, the water could move a bit because काफी stagnant था पानी. Because of that, the water body became very lively. Space बढ़ गया. That's why, a lot of water lilies actually started growing from the bottom of the pond. And now if you go to Sarasbag in Pune, it's been like 4 years now to the project. Obviously, the Pune Municipal Corporation is taking care of removal of the solid waste once in a while. They're maintaining it really well. But you can see a lot of water lilies. We have made some structures which are made out of wooden logs. The turtles are sunbasking on top of it, doing their yoga poses. There are birds which are coming there to prey on the fish. So it has become like a whole ecosystem in itself. And back then, we had about 350 volunteers joined us all throughout the couple of weekends that I spoke about. And that project has become their own project. So we still have that WhatsApp group. Whoever goes to the Sarasbag pond would, take pictures and put it here that, remember we had done this. This plant has grown so much. And this wooden log that we've put in, there are 10 turtles sitting on it. So, and then they will also brag about it that this is our project and we have done this. So I think that is the best part about the projects that we do, that it doesn't remain Lemnion's project. We don't even put up signboards anywhere, saying that, this was commissioned by so-and-so, this was done by so-and-so. Never. It is the project of the community. We want people to experience rejuvenation. We want people to go back to the water body and say that this is the plant that I have planted. Just because of me, this entire school of fish has now started coming up. So I think that's the fun part of the projects that we do, that everybody wants to be a part of it. And we let everybody come there, may that be a kid or may that be a senior person, to be a part of it and give his own inputs, their own inputs, and make changes and bring in transformations. I think that's the best part about what we do.
Okay, brilliant, really nice story, really great story. Thanks for sharing that. One last question I have on the work part, then I'll start talking on something else on the opportunities bit. Is the solutions of biological solutions, the plants and all you mentioned. How big can we scale them right now? Can we solve a problem as big as the Yamuna, or it will have like multiple small solutions then finally solving it?
Yeah, I think we usually choose the latter. That, like I said in the initial conversations also, that we usually believe that we have to address the root cause. जहाँ से pollution का उद्गम हो रहा है, if you start there, it will be an amazing thing to do. So it's like, if you diagnosing the problem right, if you know where this is coming from, why this is coming, what is the reason behind it, if you try to address that, you will actually reach the solution faster. So that's one way of looking at it. Another bit, that what we follow at Lemnion, I don't know if this is an ideal strategy or things like that. I'm yet to learn a lot. As a practitioner, I have been in this field for past 10 years only. There are more senior people in the field. But what we practice is, instead of touching the river, if we try to work on, so what we also believe is, instead of, looking at the river only, if we look at these feeder streams, these polluted water bodies, which are further contaminating the river. Agar ye karenge, if we try to solve the problem there, and if the cleaner water from the feeder streams would enter into the river, we don't even have to do anything on the river. So that way, we'll also save a lot on funds. We will also save a lot on, the kind of infrastructure that we are building. And at the same time, because of the approach, people would know that if I put this here, it will all the way, travel to the river. So I won't do that. So that's where the whole thing starts. I also believe, Vedant, it's not only the technology when we're looking at it, it's also the people participation that we've been talking about. So,
Yeah.
along with a lot of projects that we do for water body rejuvenation or water treatment systems, we also make it a point that we have community engagement or capacity building programs where we actually go talk to the local stakeholders. Anybody who's staying close to the water body, let's say even a school who is getting a system set up for them, we talk to them mentioning that this is something that we are doing for you. If you do this tiny bit, it is going to go in a longer run. It will
Yeah.
work absolutely
Yeah.
fine. So I think it is a combination of between the approach and the strategy that you're looking at. Technology obviously is extremely important, but community participation and approach and strategy, if these things go hand in hand, the technology would actually work in the way it should. So
Yeah.
that is how we usually keep it as an approach at
Yeah.
Lemnion.
And then, of course, it can be scaled to a bigger solution. Right.
Uh,
Great to know. Uh, I'm going to come to the final bit. Most of the questions that I wanted to cover have been covered in our conversation here. Let's say I am someone, we have within our generation right now a kind of, how do I call it, a wave of people trying to be opportunistic, maybe start a business or something. If I want to start, I'm just a young kid out of college, maybe 3 years or so, something,
right.
a business or something in this particular field. What area do you think is somewhere they can focus on? Maybe for let's say they develop products or develop some kind of ways to solve this problem.
Okay. So Vedant, this is something that I always tell everyone. Every college junior that comes to me mentioning, I have an amazing idea and I want to start a business. Right.
Hmm.
So one thing that I absolutely tell them is just think, why do you need to set up an entire, set of NGO or a private limited company or a proprietorship or LLP, whatever, why do you
Hmm.
need that? If you think your idea is good enough and can be scalable and can be implemented in a particular location, just collaborate. Work as an individual initially, or build a team,
Hmm.
and depending on that, see if you can collaborate with someone who's already in the business. The reason being, you end up saving a lot of energy and also your costs on a
Hmm.
lot of things that you do as a company initially,
Hmm.
because those are the things where you actually lead to a lot of depressing issues, or you actually feel that this is not going right. But
Hmm.
if you are, let's say for example, Lemnion is a 6-year-old company, we definitely look for more collaborations. So if there's somebody who has some kind of a bacterial culture, and
Hmm.
they, instead of putting up an entire company, if they can collaborate with companies like Lemnion, for example,
Hmm.
and tell them
Hmm.
that this is the product that we have and this is something that we want to get it tested on the field, कि
Hmm.
हमें ना वो चेक करना है, proof of concept करना है, so that's one.
Okay.
या फिर हमने प्रूफ ऑफ कॉन्सेप्ट कर लिया है, नाउ वी वांट टू डू द मिनिमम वायबल प्रोडक्ट, इसका बनाना है, एमवीपी
Hmm.
करना है. सो देन another part is that becomes easy because you directly get customers, you don't have to find customers on your own. So वो काम
Hmm.
आपका बच जाता है, पैसा बच जाता है.
Correct. Yeah.
Another bit also is there is a whole team that Lemnion already has on the field, right? All you have
Hmm.
to do is bring in your product, test your product, go back. So you do the job which you are meant to do. When
Hmm.
you are a founder of a company, you have to do 10 other things.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you have to look after the accounts, you have to look after the social media team, and there are hundreds of things that come to you. So this is something
Hmm.
that has come from my own personal experience. There are times when I want to go on the field, but I can't because I have a VC meeting, maybe, or some other meeting where I have to talk to them. But my heart is in the field. I want to be
Hmm.
with the community, talk to them, see that transformation. But I can't do that as a founder at times.
Hmm.
Okay. But this is something that I've realized. So what happens is, if you collaborate, it becomes easier for you to work on the focus area that you want to work on. So I think initially, instead of starting a thing of your own, look for collaborations that will help you save a lot on your cost and energies also. And you will also understand if the market really needs it. So
Hmm.
that validation would also happen. And then you can decide if you want to make modifications, if you want to still go with it, not go with it, and then slowly build a team, and then actually venture out into a commercial business.
Okay. Okay. All right. That completes the questions part of our podcast episode. And I want to switch to now what I call the climate rapid fire. Simple questions, which will, you know, kind of based on imagination, fun questions for us to end our beautiful conversation on.
Okay.
I'm gonna pose you a question, whatever comes first into your mind, or as rapid as possible.
I'll
No
take a
long
deep
answers
breath.
here. Yeah,
Okay.
no long answers here. Extremely short answers will be is what I am looking for. Like one word, one line, two lines. That's what all we are.
Okay.
So, are you ready? Can we start the rapid fire?
Okay, Vedant.
All right. So, in your daily life, a sight or a visual that kind of angers you or troubles you the most when it comes to climate change.
Okay. Somebody, if they drop a bag full of waste in a water body or anywhere.
Okay. A book or an article or a video or any such media bit that is a must watch for someone to understand the impact of climate change, to understand climate change issues or anything related to that.
Just talk to people around you. You don't need movies and books.
Okay. Your inspiration when it comes to solving the climate change problem.
Everybody that I meet on the field. Everybody.
A brand you think, brand or a company you think is doing great work towards the environment, of course, apart from Lemnion.
So many. I mean, if I bare necessity is doing their own job.
Yeah.
What else can I think of? There's another company called Ayla, which is based out of Israel.
Hmm.
So many. I mean, I can't think of names like that. But yeah.
Okay. On the reverse side now, a brand you think can do much better work for the environment.
Lemnion.
Okay. Okay. If given an opportunity to travel to the past, what mistake related to climate change would you like to correct?
Not looking at the holistic approach, only thinking about duckweed or water.
Okay. Okay. Um, your favorite place of travel? This is a two-part question. So, first part is your favorite place of travel.
Anywhere where you get good food.
Okay. But still, any particular place that you can think of?
Yeah, Banaras for last year,
Banaras.
and even Trivandrum. Beautiful
Okay.
places.
Okay. So now at this place, you are given the opportunity to write one message, one liner at max two liner, with respect to climate change on a big hoarding. So what would you like to write?
This is something that I usually say. Uh, Rethink what you're doing. So, unlearn, relearn.
Okay, great. Now, you have a superpower to talk to nature's ecosystems, like lakes, oceans, forests, mountains, etc.
Mhm.
Whose problem would you listen to, and what do you think that problem will be?
Wow. Okay. I would look at, I think, the taller trees because they have a bird's eye view.
Hmm.
What is going wrong, where it is going wrong, and then looking at something which is on the bed, maybe the river bed or a bed of the river, so
Hmm.
I get a perspective from the top and from the bottom maybe.
Okay, okay, great. You have another superpower to interview one organism other than human beings.
Hmm.
Who would you interview, and what do you think would be the topic of discussion?
Okay, I think I would want to talk to the microorganisms because that, I mean, as a kid also I was fascinated by them, and we
Hmm.
don't see them. So I think it's
Hmm.
it's like a superpower they have in themselves. That,
Yeah.
they're probably the almighty that we can't see.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would definitely ask them, and then I would ask them that, are you the good one or the bad one? Are you the pathogen or the, the good one? Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Given $1 billion, how would you use it to save our planet?
Wow. I mean, there are tons of water bodies, tons of them, which I see
Yeah.
every day through flights or through trains and when I walk. So I think whatever I can do to make them better, I want everybody to take that dip in the water body here. So yeah, I'll definitely use it there.
All right. That was a climate rapid fire. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Pooja Tendulkar of Lemnion for you. Pooja, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for giving your time. I had a lovely conversation with you and hope the viewers enjoy it as well.
Thank you, Vedant. That was amazing. I think I loved the rapid fire and
Yeah.
the whole conversation. I hope everybody likes to listen to us. And if you have more questions, you can definitely reach out to us. But yeah, thank you so much.
Hey folks, I hope you enjoyed the episode. So do like, share, and comment on what you think of it. I'll be talking with many such amazing people who are saving our beautiful planet. So don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you soon.